Okay, we're going to talk about something you use literally every single day, but probably don't even think about, your foot. But we're not just going to see it as, a body part. We're going to see it for what it really is, a complete masterpiece of architectural engineering. Seriously, the design is so brilliant it actually mirrors some of the most amazing structures humans have ever built.
So, here's a question for you. What on earth could a Roman aqueduct, a structure that has stood for thousands of years, possibly have in common with your foot? It sounds a little crazy, I know, but believe it or not, the answer is the exact same brilliant design principle.
And there it is. They're both built on these incredible architectural principles. They are designed from the ground up to bear a ton of weight, to withstand constant stress, and to last a lifetime. And that's the whole idea we're going to unpack right now, using the logic of ancient architecture to understand our own bodies.
Now, at the very heart of this incredible design are the foot arches. And these aren't just simple curves. They're these complex, bony structures doing three critical jobs all at once. They support your entire body weight, they absorb the shock of every single step you take, and they give you that spring you need to walk, run, or jump.
Your foot actually has 3 of these arches, but today we're going to focus on the big one. Kind of the star of the show, the medial arch. This is the highest and really the most important arch in your foot. It's the one doing most of the heavy lifting.
Okay, so to really get how this works, we need to borrow our first term from architecture. In any classic stone arch, there's a really special piece right at the top called the keystone. Well, in your foot's medial arch, that critical role is played by a bone called the talus.
So, what exactly is a keystone? It's that wedge-shaped stone you see right at the very peak of an arch. It's the last piece they put in, and its job is to literally lock all the other stones together. It's the magic piece that takes all that downward force and channels it safely out to the sides. Without that keystone, the whole thing just crumbles.
And this is the exact same setup in your foot. It's pretty amazing. You can see all the bones that come together to form that medial arch. And right there at the top, highlighted, is the talus. Just like an architectural keystone, it locks the whole arch together and handles the immense stress of your body weight every time you take a step. But wait, an arch needs more than just a keystone to be stable. All that downward force can cause the sides of the arch to want to spread apart. In architecture, you solve this problem with something called a tie beam. And in your foot, this job is done by a super tough band of tissue called the plantar aponeurosis, which you probably heard of as the plantar fascia. So, a tie beam is exactly what it sounds like. It connects the two bottom ends of an arch. Think of it like the string on a bow. It holds all that tension and stops the whole structure from just flattening out when you put weight on it. It's a beautifully simple but incredibly effective piece of engineering.
So you got this amazing combination, right? The bony arch, locked in place by its keystone, the talus bone, and then the plantar aponeurosis acting as that tie beam to hold the two ends together. It's just a really elegant, self-supporting system.
I mean, this design is incredible, but it's not invincible. So what happens when this brilliant piece of biological architecture starts to fail? Well, this is where we get into some really common and often pretty painful foot problems.
The most common issue is a condition called pes planus, or what pretty much all of us just call flat foot. And because we've got this architecture in our heads now, it's super easy to see what's actually going wrong. The medial arch starts to collapse, and that all-important keystone, the talus bone, begins to drop down toward the ground.
And this collapse sets off a really painful chain reaction. As the bony arch weakens and that keystone bone falls, the two ends of the arch are forced to spread apart. And what does that do? It puts a massive amount of strain on our tie beam, the plantar aponeurosis, stretching it out like an over-tightened rubber band. That constant, excessive tension is exactly what leads to the inflammation and that sharp heel pain we know as plantar fasciitis.
Now, on the flip side, you can have the total opposite problem, pes cavus, or an excessively high arch. So if a flat foot is a collapsed arch with a fallen keystone that leads to instability, a high arch is kind of like having a jammed keystone. The arch becomes way too high and rigid, which makes it a terrible shock absorber. See? They're both failures of the exact same architectural system, just at opposite extremes.
And just to complete the picture, that medial arch isn't working all by itself. Your foot actually has 2 other arches, and yep, they each have their own keystone. You've got the lateral arch on the outside of your foot, and its keystone is the cuboid bone. And then you have the transverse arch that runs across the foot. The whole thing is a complex, 3-dimensional dome.
When all three of these arches and their keystones are working together as a team, they become your body's perfect natural shock absorbers. They spread your weight out perfectly, they soak up the impact of every single heel strike, they conserve your energy while you walk, and they let your foot adapt instantly to uneven ground. It's an absolutely brilliant system.
So, the next time you take a step, just take a second to remember that incredible architecture at work down there. The keystones, the tie beams, the whole three-dimensional arch system holding you up. Our feet were literally engineered for a lifetime of movement. Which leaves us with a pretty important question, right? Are we actually giving these amazing structures the support they need? Something to think about.